You made it home.
I did. Oh my gosh.
Dude,
Oh,
there's still people that haven't.
I know. Some people just said fuck it and they're just gonna stay there because there's athletes going around or going on. And I mean, what is it? James is still there?
No, he's in the air today.
Okay, he's in the air today.
4 days later or something, he posted, and I was like, damn, bro. He said, I mean, and James travels a ton. He's like, this is the worst travel experience I've had since maybe ever. At least since competing.
Yeah, it's been crazy for me. I mean, we talked about it. It's like I hardly, if ever, I might have done it once. I've gotten like the insurance or cancellation insurance, and I didn't get it for this because I didn't think I need to. I was a direct flight going out Monday night. It's like, what's the
pretty straightforward. I mean,
yeah,
but just craziness. Crazy weekend in general, and there's been tons of review shows, a lot of them talking about the weather, talking about what didn't happen, but we're going to mostly talk about what did happen, and in particular what we want to do is dig into some of the athletes, and maybe some of the athletes who even they're in the team division that we'll see individually this year, and what we noticed, what we liked, first like live look at some of them in competition, but there's something much bigger than that that's going on right now, and that's how we're going to start the show. So I'll let Patrick kick it off on that.
Yeah, I woke up to the message from you. I went to bed pretty early last night, but you're just like, hey, did you mentioned like, hey, I think we should say something regarding the Wells sisters, and they posted this, I believe yesterday, and I will play it for us here. If we can get volume.
Probably usually it doesn't bring the volume.
Yeah. But here we go.
Very shocked to find out that my mom was battling brain cancer. She has a tumor called glioblastoma. If you guys know me or Sydney, you guys know my mom because she's our number one fan, our number one supporter. And yeah, she's our best friend. If we're not with her, then we are in constant communication with her. So it's been a really hard few weeks for her and our whole entire family. She did have the surgery and the tumor was removed. So now she is getting ready to prepare for her fight against brain cancer. That's crazy how life can change so suddenly. We were just celebrating Christmas with her in London, and then now we're teaching her how to walk, talk, and eat again. We just wanted to share this message publicly just to let you guys in on what's been going on, and also so you guys know that like we're not alone in this. We have so much support through this whole journey, and we also just want to be there to support anyone else who is going through the same situation or something similar. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for the support, and thank you to the doctors, caretakers, and I mean just all of her friends and family that have really came together and been there for her through her fight. We love her so much, and we just want nothing more than her to just get through this. Yeah, so keep her in your prayers, and thank you guys for the support. We use our...
Yeah, man, I mean, honestly pretty impressive that they're able to do that, to like pull it together and talk about what they said, their best friend, their mom, that way, and just be genuine and open about it. And they were right. There's a huge amount of support. If you go to that post, you'll see 55,000 plus likes, 22 to 2,300 comments already, and it's nothing but prayers and love and support. And obviously there's a lot of people that never have had a chance to meet Lisa, but a lot of people who have. And at least for me, I actually got to spend a little bit of time with her at Rogue Invitational 2 years ago. She was in the HWPO box. I was hanging out there most of the weekend, and it was awesome watching her and talking to her and seeing her cheering for, getting nervous with, celebrating her daughter's success. It was one of the kind of battles that they've had in recent years, back and forth between the two of them. And yeah, I mean, Brooke said it, I think, perfectly. Like, life can come at you so fast. Things can change so quickly. And it's just a great reminder. in a world that you always talk about at the end of these shows, Patrick, and in our fitness world as well, where there's oftentimes things that seem to be dominating the narrative that maybe aren't that important. Like, this is a good reminder of leaning into the things that are, leaning into the people that are, being there for each other. And, of course, in addition to all of that, we're, like everyone else, sending our love and our thoughts and our prayers for Lisa and for Sydney and Brooke as they try to stay strong for her through this.
Yeah, I was able to share a couple messages with Sydney, and like I said, I've known Lisa since probably 2017 when I kind of got into the sport at regionals. I met her at regionals down in Nashville, when Brooke was competing down there, and just the St. Louis connection she has. She lives here in St. Louis. Just recently got married in Hawaii with the girls, and start building another family with her new husband and his family. Bringing in, I believe they had two sons. He had two sons, so just kind of creating new families, expanding their families here, and obviously, every time I got to see her, especially on the WFP, she was at all the WFP tour stops. So being able to kind of like talk to her and just how proud she is of both her girls, and it was a special year for her because of Brooke retiring and everything. So it meant so much for her to be there. And I remember, in Copenhagen, them going off, them talking about going off to London, and we're just going back and forth about like exchange, like places they should go and stuff like that. And, Lisa's just amazing. Just an amazing parent, an amazing individual. And, again, just hoping her for the best right now. I mean, the hard part is now, like I said, Brooke and Lisa, Sydney are going to be by her side and teaching her, how to walk, how to talk. But, at least the tumor's been removed, and now is the treatment portion of that. They did send up, there is a GoFundMe, for Lisa, because anyone that's been through cancer and stuff like that, it's not, even with insurance, with medical, there's a lot of costs that they don't cover. There's a lot of experimental things that, like, prescriptions and remedies and ways to fight this that aren't covered by insurance. So they started a GoFundMe here, and right now it's like, the goal is $50K. So if you feel inclined, please, the GoFundMe. I did put it in the show description. So if you need to find a spot, just click on that, and then of course you can donate to the GoFundMe. And if anything, maybe go to Brooke and Sydney's page and send them your best and your well wishes as well. So Lisa, we're supporting you. We got your back, and you're gonna beat this. Brooke and Sydney, you guys are brave. You're gonna. She has the perfect daughters to support her through this.
So it was important to us to start with that today, even though it's somber and can be difficult. But they've been a huge part of the community. She's been a huge part of supporting them through that. So couldn't really see starting this show anywhere else.
Yeah.
But looking at the week that was in Miami, obviously tons of athletes came to compete there. We talked about it in the run up, talked about it on site, like the number of countries, the number of age demographics, adaptive divisions, all the different things that Wodapalooza offers. And as has been the case year after year, the community showed up down there, 100 plus vendors, 2,000 plus athletes, volunteers out of a crazy number of volunteers, and of course the fans. And it was a tough week. There was a lot of challenges with the weather. Not everyone got to compete as much as they obviously hoped to, but we did get to see some things on the competition floor, particularly in the elite divisions that, Patrick and I were thinking maybe good things to dive into a little bit, to pave the way for what's going to be obviously an action-packed year of competition this season. So I don't know what division you want to start with, but
I figure before we start with that, everyone's talked about, I'd like to first give a shout out to Gymreapers. I mean, first year, I was very, very impressed. Yes. I mean, I was very impressed One, with their partnership, those who know Gymreapers are, they come from the bodybuilding world. Their look is a little bit more darker, more a little bit gothic. And I thought the designs and what they did, they knocked it out of the park. They were able to incorporate the Miami feel, and I thought what they went was really cool. It was almost when I was talking to Alex, he who handles all the partnerships for Wodapalooza. I told him it reminded me of like Miami After Dark, and he goes, yeah, he's like, it was kind of like midnight Miami, and I'm like, he's like, that was the theme. I'm like, well, then if I'm calling it After Dark, I guess it worked then, because I really like the colorways. I love the pinks and blues that stood out. They were sold out by Friday of just about everything. So I thought they knocked it out of the park. The signage, everything looked great. I don't know if you wanted to,
No, it really did. It was probably just a big question of, transitioning from one big brand to another big brand as a title sponsor, and trying to maintain the identity of Wodapalooza, but lean into a new partnership with Gymreapers. And I feel like the team pulled that off, very, very well. If you walk around the venue there, every year at Wodapalooza, you can see a theme, you can see something, and they've been really good at evolving with the different types of support they've had from sponsors and title sponsors, but still maintaining that Waza mindset and identity that's been theirs for so long. So I think that's great that you brought that up, and I definitely resonate with it.
Yeah, and then the other thing that really kind of stood out besides the competition was like, we've been very fortunate, like especially you with your relationship with Dylan, and then our relationship as B.Friendly with Wodapalooza and Dylan, that we get to see behind the curtain a lot of things that people normally don't see. And then, like, obviously last year we're part of the broadcast. This year we kind of had a different role, but yet we still were able to have some of the access that we normally have. But it's just amazing how, like, a lot of people complain about things and not provide solutions. And that happens in every competition. Dylan is the type of guy, and his team, they're the type of people that they sit back, they evaluate, they ask questions, they're constantly do AARs, and then they try to fix things for the following year. And I thought what they did this year compared to last year, 100% better. And last year was great, but like just simple things of moving the entranceway from the very front, from the north end of the venue to the middle of the venue, that made a huge difference, because especially to the vendors, and every vendor we talked to, especially the first 3 days, there's like not many of them complained about where they're at in terms of their spot, because there was a natural flow to it, as opposed to last year where you just walk down and back. If you just see, you just basically walked in circles this year. And then also using what Miami offered you, they gave you the beach, and they were able to use the other side of the berm to put an athlete area. So the actual footprint of the competition was the same size, but they were able to make it bigger and add more competition floors to that, add more vendor spots, more activation areas, because they were able to take some of those areas and put it outside of the venue, but not too far where it wasn't too long a walk. So they put the volunteer village, the athlete village out there. They put they did a great job of putting the Crucible right there, the Crucible right there on the road, right on Ocean Avenue. So
you mean the Gauntlet, right?
Yeah, the Gauntlet. Sorry, the Gauntlet. Sorry, the Crucible. The Gauntlet right there. So that way people would walk by. I mean, that little boardwalk there, that little walkway across the street from Ocean Avenue, you walk by Muscle Beach and you see nothing but people working out. It brought a lot of walk-up people, a lot of people just wondering what was going on. Thought that was a brilliant idea. And then I thought overall the setup of it, again, they improved on it. And I think even next year they're going to improve on it even more. So I wanted to also bring the attention to that as well, and a shout out to Dylan from a logistical and setup area, and again listening to people and looking to improve a product that's already a staple of the community and a very, very well defined product already. He's constantly evolving and improving that. So again, if there's anything you want to speak on that matter as well.
No, I mean, I think you said it great. It's year or two at the venue, and I think you highlighted a lot of the most important changes that they made that catered to, I think, one of the reasons why they're so good at at doing stuff like that is because they know their identity. And I mean, even in the midst of all the chaos from Sunday, at the end of the night, Dylan gathered everyone who was still there across Miami Beach. And I mean, probably everyone's seen it on Instagram by now. Is what did he talk about? That community. That's the heartbeat of what Wodapalooza is. And when you know that, then it makes it easier to make decisions in the midst of the chaos or year to year as you're trying to navigate all the different variables that come into hosting a huge event on the beach, as a celebration of fitness and community.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we can wait till the end of the show to talk about 26.3, how special that was. But yeah, I think right now we can go right into the leaderboard here. And let's just start off with, I believe, individual men is what I have pulled up. Yeah, individual men.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that a lot of the conversation has centered around the podium athletes already. I did a show with John Young and CJ on Wad Prep a couple nights ago, and we talked a lot about James Sprague and Austin Hatfield, Ty Jenkins, and a little bit about Yona Koski, and ended up having a tie there between Austin and Yona for third place on the podium. So I if it's okay with you, I'd kind of like to look a little bit further down the leaderboard.
Sure. Let's start with let's talk about Yona. I mean,
sure.
I mean, obviously everything Ty, Austin, James, that they're the young and up and comers. They're the hot thing right now. They certainly deserve it. Ty, an amazing performance. I think he's only going to get better, and this kind of showed it. Austin looks like he's, a lot of people say that he might be washed or whatever. I don't think so. I think Austin just, is just like he's trying to figure things out. And I think finishing third against this field it's a good thing for him. He's building some confidence. But Yona is a guy, a veteran.
I just got it before, dude. I got the Austin Hatfield shirt on.
Yeah.
Austin and Jared surprised the hell out of me with this.
Yeah,
101. We were just watching the teams on Saturday, I think, over at the lifting stage, and they came by and gave me this shirt, and like that was kind of cool. I'm not the guy that you're going to find in the lines trying to get pictures or autographs with athletes, and was a really nice gesture from the two of them. Obviously known Jared for a long time. Don't even really know Austin too well. So thank you guys for that. I mean, it's so weird how sometimes a simple gesture can just mean a lot to someone. And it caught me off guard how like cool and how much it meant to me. So thank you.
Yeah, so what this means the next time Brian puts out any rankings, Austin's going to be first.
I give him +1.
A +1,
not one necessarily, but +1.
Yeah, a +1. So whatever spot he has, he's like, I got to give him a bump him up one spot based on
probably gonna be mayhem. That field is gonna be wild, dude.
Yeah. So let's talk about Yona. Veteran in the sport. Last year had some ups and downs with him. I think the ups would obviously be WFP in Copenhagen, and far above that was the birth of his child, which kind of led to some of his performances. It's hard. But I think him showing up at this field and then and I on paper it looked like some of the workouts just really weren't going to be for him, but I was really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, he did as much as anybody last year between multiple semifinals. Last chance qualifier, he qualified and competed his 10th CrossFit Games. Amelia gave birth to their son a few days before WFP Mesa, which, it's 2 extra time zones from coming to the East Coast. So it's a big trip from Finland. He showed up there and got through it, is the best thing we can say. And finally, in September, he could breathe, if you want to call it that, if you're going home to your first child, But when we saw in Copenhagen was the top 10, threat, top 5 threat, Yona Koski, that has showed up here and there over the years. And by the years, I mean 12 of them. He's been competing for a long time, and he's one of those guys. He's, relative to the new age of athletes, he's on the smaller side, but he's very experienced, very savvy on a competition floor. And in particular with this competition, you said that maybe not all the workouts were going to be perfect for him on paper. I was looking at the complex workout with that 1,200 meter beach run, and then the, heavy after dark with the lifting. And if you had told me he just can take 2nd and 6th on those, I don't know if I would have believed you even against the field being what it was this year. I did get a chance to ask him about the running workout, and even he said that it was a little better than he anticipated. So Iona, I mean, the guy, I think that the top athletes know this. Like, he should not be underestimated, and he definitely punches bigger than his size on the competition floor.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So it was really cool to see him, a great performance in 26.3. He, got to talk to him a couple times, just a great attitude. And, it's good to see him, tie for third there. And,
Dude, also, I mean, if you didn't watch it after the final was canceled, James and Ty and Yona and Luca did that workout at CrossFit Miami Beach, and it's on James Sprague Instagram. And he was not in this. They ran 2 heats at 2. He wasn't in the same heat as James, but I think that final heat would have been the best heat of the weekend at least for the men, maybe for every division. That was a very fun workout to watch a small sample size do. And there's some other guys that might have been in the mix there as well, including Ilya Mosalenko, who ends up 5th here. I would say he's probably, he's definitely the biggest unknown amongst the top 10 guys this year. Not that we haven't seen him before, not that we didn't think that he was on the rise this year. John and I both had him in our top 100. We both talked about him as a guy to watch. John knows him, I would say, more well than I do at this point, because Matt Rattay is his coach. Matt Rattay is John Young's teammate with the Grid League team that they're on. But for me, Ilya is strong. I knew that. He's been gaining competition experience. He's young, and he doesn't speak much English. And that's about all I knew about him before this weekend. So he was one of those guys that, being there on the side of the competition floors and watching him, I was looking at the composure. And in particular on workout number 2 with the rowing and the wall balls and the legless rope climbs, I was watching that with John, and John's like, he's going to pick off people round by round. And he did that. And it's such an easy workout to come out of the gates hot and drift backwards when you're a young athlete or on a big stage for the first time or in a center lane of a middle heat. And Ilya was just composed throughout that workout and did exactly what the game plan was. And when young athletes are able to temper that in the first 5 minutes of the workout and then attack or climb throughout over the last 5 minutes of a workout, that's a sign to me of someone who has extremely high potential in the sport, especially when they come in and they're strong enough already to take second on a lifting workout, even when they weren't feeling their best.
Yeah. This is the first time I was able to see him live, and I was very thoroughly impressed. He really good composure. The cool thing about Ilya is, like, most of he's competed at NorCal, I think 3 years in a row. So competing outside in the elements with that type of unique setting and a unique crowd, he seemed very composed, and I was really impressed. I mean, obviously you could say, he's strong, and he has that, but I mean, you could tell his fitness is coming around. 4th place in 26.3. I think that was rather impressive for him, because that, you wouldn't think, like, that's a longer workout. That's gonna,
Well, the thing is, the first 3 workouts were all on the longer side.
Yeah, and he's all top 10s. So I think
Well, it's not just the top 10s. I mean, look at the guys right behind him. You got Max Krieg, who we had thought this slate of workouts would be pretty good for. You got Luka Jukic, Nick Matthew, Patrick Vellner, and even Mika Lilliorg, like guys that have been on big stages, whether it's IF3s, WFPs, semifinals, CrossFit Games. And I know it's only 4 workouts, but 4 workouts in which there was a lot of squatting. And I think that Ilya is
that helps.
A phenomenal squatter. So,
yes,
I don't want to say that, like, he's better than those guys. I don't think he's better than those guys. But he showed that he wasn't intimidated to be on a floor with them, and that he could execute under pressure with composure against a good field on workouts that maybe should be good for him, or maybe wouldn't have been in the past but are now. And if you're trying to look around and see some guys from this weekend that you might want to keep your eye on that you weren't before, Mosalenko's at the top of that list for me.
Yeah, not to be, something not to dismiss with him is, like, he is he is a displaced person. I mean, he fled to Ukraine when the Ukraine war started, and he's made the U.S. his home. He's slowly but steadily learning English. His girlfriend's been, who's also from the Ukraine, has also been kind of helping him out as an interpreter. But that play, those are factors. And I think he's really, kind of found his way, his path. And I think, when you talk about some of the, we used to talk about the Russian athletes all the time. And, but it seems like the Ukrainian athletes with him on the men's side and Daniel Pinchuk on the women's side, I'm like, those are the athletes that are kind of like, despite what's going on in Ukraine and what's going on with that war, they're still finding the time to do what they love, as with all the stuff and all the stress going on. So I didn't want that to, I wanted to kind of point that out when it hasn't been an easy road for him.
No. Looking at the bottom 10 or 8 of this leaderboard, as we did have a couple of unfortunate withdrawals with Connor Volts and Bill Leahy. Really would have liked to see those guys compete, but wasn't meant to be. Just want to shed a little bit of attention on Leo Barneschi there in 12th place. We touched on him briefly in the run-up. Young guy out of Italy. He actually won the first workout at the UBL Italian Championships last year, so I have talked to him and interviewed him previously. This is his 6th season training with De Montour under Coach Teo. That's Elisa Fuliano's training camp and program. Martina Barina, who is in the women's field's a part of that as well. So they had a group that came over. And they, Dummies at the Box is a big media there in Italy. And they got some interviews from these guys. And overall, I mean, if I'm being honest, the Italians were not very happy with the way that the weekend went. But I would say, give a little latitude to what Wodapalooza was dealing with there. And, apologies that it wasn't the best. I do think this kid has some potential, though. I mean, he's not, if I was going to describe him in a crude way for a guy who's as fit as he is, he's a little bit more tall and skinny than a guy who you would think was taking 4th place on the lifting workout. And he's got, what I'm trying to say is he's got sneaky strength. He's gaining some competition experience. He's around a coach and an athlete who are very good at kind of maximizing performance on the competition floor. And I don't know what the ceiling is for this guy, but I think that he's on the way up, and I'm looking forward to wherever and whenever the next time I get to see him compete is.
Yeah. I was really impressed by him as well. Especially, when you think of Italy, the Italian athletes, really it's Elisa Fuliano, and you're like, there's got to be other guys out there, and it's just not coincidental. It's non-coincidental that that guy is training alongside of her, or potentially that guy is training alongside of her. So I think as long as he keeps that path, and learns from her, learns from the coach, I think this is going to be the first time we talk about him, especially this year. My advice for him is just, keep on doing competitions. That's how he's going to best learn about himself. And what a way to start off your competition season by something like this. 12th place in a pretty impressive field. Kind of going back up to the top, you thought you were thinking Max was going to have a good weekend. He finished 7th, I believe, last year. He finished 6th this year. What did you see in Max? Do you think were you impressed by any at all? Did you see an improvement compared to last year?
Max's Wodapalooza weekend to me was, I want to say, it's kind of pedestrian. There was nothing that really jumped off the page to me. Highest finish of 4th, lowest finish of 8th on the lifting. So it was never, and I think that's if for Max to make that next step, he needs to start finding some places to have wins, to have, maybe, okay, if James is in the field, maybe not, but to have top 3 finishes. The big points are at the top of the leaderboard. And it's great to be able to show up and have that consistent performance, but 4, 7, 7, 8, you finish 6th. 2, 4, 7, 10, you may finish 5th or 4th, those big points at the top. So I think that the next step for Max is to find a way, or find some kind of workouts or competitions where, he can push into a top 3 finish once or twice per, maybe once every 4 or 5 workouts. Otherwise, it's going to be tough to continue to climb towards the podiums.
Yeah. Behind him, Luca did not have the idea of Miami Wodapalooza last year. I mean, I remember me and him were on the same flight. He was just tired. I think he kind of went through the Middle East gauntlet of doing some competitions there kind of late in the season. I think by the time he got to Miami, he was kind of just exhausted, which is hard to say in January, mid-January. What did you see differently from him from this year compared to last year?
More smiling.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that like, it sounds maybe silly to say, but I think it's really impactful actually, that he was enjoying himself. He was hanging out with Yona, got to know some of the American guys like James and Ty a little bit more, having fun, enjoying competing, which is critical. In terms of competition, he was pretty transparent. I actually spoke to him on Saturday.
Saturday. Yep.
Yeah, and he's like, the workouts honestly weren't that great for me compared to like if you're just going to have a smattering of 4 workouts that we're going to do, these wouldn't be the 4 that I would pick. We talked about the squatting being maybe advantageous for Ilya Mosalenko. Like, squatting is not Luka's best thing. He's a much better puller than he is squatter. And yet he actually improved on a lot of his scores from testing, which he says is a big testament to his tapering. He changed his training. He's coaching himself right now. And he was, he's like, I was kind of using this as a check-in to see how my training of coaching myself over a couple months and then tapering into a competition with travel involved would go. And on that final workout that they did in the gym, he tested it in the exact same way that they did it in the gym, because his gym at home is a very similar size to the floor space they used, and he improved by 50 seconds. And so he says that was a really good thing for him to see. Okay, my taper was good for this competition. He had what I would call is, it happens in competition, but on workout number 2, I mean, he got a lot of no reps on wall balls for probably something that wasn't necessarily to be no repped for. That pushed him down the leaderboard. I think if the final workout had happened, and if he had even just an average caliber of judging in that workout compared to everyone else, if you look at the points gap to him and Max and then to him and Ilya, I think he could have been 6th, maybe even 5th in this competition. And, if he's right there just knocking on the door, 20, 30 points behind Yona and Austin in a set of programming that's not the best for him, then that gives me a good feeling about 2026. I mean, in general, 25 was a tough year for him competition. And he'll tell you that if you talk to him. So I am encouraged by this. He'll compete in Athens Throwdown. I haven't seen the full leaderboard there, but I think that he's probably the favorite, if not first or second, to win that. And then he'll show up in WFP for Tour Stop 1 in London, and it's going to be a big field. And then I think that I'll be looking there to see him have maybe a finish better than any of his finishes last year on tour. And if he does that, then I feel like the runway is clear for a great season and year for Luka.
Yeah. Let's talk about Vellner. A couple of weeks off of the procedure that he had on his heart. Obviously I was able to talk
that he had at WFP finals. Like, he was beat up this offseason.
He was.
The snow was beating down on them in Canada. So
yeah, I mean, I guess you can make up old excuses for him, but Patrick wasn't making any excuses for himself. Like, he knew exactly what he was getting into. He knew he wasn't nearly 100%. I mean, he probably was at 75%. But he, again, this is his farewell tour. Wodapalooza has been, a part of, who he is. He's won it, 3 times?
3 times on individual, 1 time on a team.
On a team, yeah. So, this is a necessity for him to kind of go there, But I don't know, what did you see out of Vellner? Were you able to talk to him? I mean,
well, we had him on one of the shows on Saturday, but I did talk to him prior to the competition, and he said a top 10 would be good. And he's been coming, by the time he got to the competition, he'd had 3 weeks of training. Obviously, he's got 12 years of foundation and training behind that. But, to get back up to speed with guys that are a lot younger, a lot maybe have the hunger, have been targeting this as something that they really want to do and excel at, to be in the fight, I think was where he wanted to be. I think he felt like that. He got into the final heat. And I was also just like, not one thing that he put on social media was negative. Everything was positive. Love being out there, ready for the next one. And that's a good cue for like younger athletes to lean into. Sometimes it's a fake it till you make it thing. Like, even if you're not feeling at your best, show your best, go out there, do what you can do. And reset for the next one. That's what Vellner did. And I mean, whatever, he ends up earning a little bit of money, ends up with a top 10 finish. And I feel like got what he wanted to out of the weekend. He also didn't do the team competition for the first time since they've had it, which he basically told us was a good decision. You know, he just needed to do the individual and enjoy the weekend. So he was able to watch some of the guys, do some activations. I think he was on a pre-show for the broadcast. He did our pre-show as well. So some community stuff, meet and greets with VIPs. So that's an important part of this season for him also. And I think all around, you know, I was impressed with Vellner on and off the floor this weekend.
And at 10th was Miko, but I want to talk about, I mean, I'll let you talk about Miko here finishing 10th. I know you got to spend some time with him prior to competition. You know, he was kind of rolling solo this weekend, but I'll let you talk on Miko.
Yeah, I mean, made the long trip from Estonia on kind of figuring out some things on the fly. You know, he changing hotel rooms, like, oh, that looks cool. Let me go over there, like just Miko stuff. But in terms of competition, he loves going out aggressive. He loves putting himself in different environments and getting to test himself in different ways. The first clean that he hit was insane.
Yes.
I mean, the workout with the bike into the cleans, he went from the last lift he did in the warm-up area was 325, and then he loaded 365 on the bar for the first window, which was 21 calories on the Echo Bike buy-in. You basically giving yourself one attempt. He missed it, then reloaded 3, 2, 1, got it off the platform, almost buried by it. It took him 3 bounces. I mean, this was a max effort, a 1-rep max pinned front squat to stand that up. And it was a difference between him earning a little bit of money, making the top 10 and not for the weekend. So I think if we had Miko here, he would say, Miami was awesome. I'm glad that I came. I loved the experience. I'm proud of my effort. I made some friends on the floor, and I hope to be back again. That's what I think he would say.
Yeah, I think yeah. If you only had a little bit of his accent, I think we'd be good.
I definitely do not have his accent.
Yeah.
Or muscles.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that lifting event, Anderon Primo, man, he put on a show on that lifting heavy after dark.
Dude, I mean, we knew that there were some strong boys in this field. We know that Hatfield, I mean, he obviously missed his first clean, but he's strong. Miko's strong. Ilya is strong. And Anderon Primo is strong, but I didn't know that he was going to be strong enough to win this outright. The last clean he hit at 380. I mean, he stood up. I talked about how difficult it was for Miko to stand up at 365.
Yeah.
I think Primo's experience, like veteran savvy, showed here where he built into that heavy bar and then therefore was able to warm up the muscle a little bit, stand it up strong instead of struggling to stand it up early, where Miko had to back off by 30 pounds. Primo built into that, and it was, to me, the most impressive lift on the floor that day for the guys. I mean, Miko's was impressive in a different way. But 380, third round with the biking, fourth workout, all involving squatting, 24 hours. He was the strongest guy there. And he just misses the money, but it helps him on a leaderboard quite a bit.
It does. Yeah. Another name I want to bring up before we move on is Nicolas Bedon. I mean, finishing 13th. A lot of people for the last couple of years, they've been saying, like, man, watch out for him, watch out for him. I'm just not seeing it in live competition. He does great in the online stuff, live competition. You've seen him a couple times live himself. I mean, what do you think? What is the hang up with Nicolas Bedon?
I'm not sure, man. I was looking at this also. Like, he got off to a good start, 6th place on 26.3. I was excited. I knew he was feeling good after that. And then just didn't have it on 2 workouts that just require mental toughness and grit and, muscular stamina with movements that are fairly simple. You had rowing wall balls and a fairly low volume of legless rope climbs. Like, he should be, in my mind, he should be better at that.
Mm-hmm.
You have a sandbag complex at a moderate weight with some running and some strict pull-ups. Like, you got to be good at that. So that combination of like a monostructural movement with some volume squatting and some strict pulling it was clearly just not there. And that's a combination of things that you got to be good at in this sport. I was looking, he did miss a lift, but even if he hit his last lift, he would have gained 12 points on the leaderboard, which wouldn't have gained him a single spot. So I was looking for him to finish inside the top 10 here. Bill and Connor weren't in the field. Those guys definitely would have beat him and pushed him either further down here. So I'm going to be, a little bit cautious about the expectations for Bedone this season. I don't know every place he's planning to compete over the next few months, but I would be, with whoever his coaching team is, I would be looking at those 2 workouts, 2 and 3, and saying, what's going on with this movement pattern where, we're not able to even finish in the top half of not the strongest Wodapalooza field we've ever seen when it's fairly straightforward. Like you gotta shore that up if you want to continue to move up the ranks in the men's field.
Yeah, I mean, he looks the part. I mean, he definitely looks like,
and he has the confidence. He has the team around him. So I don't know. I mean, I have a question mark there, like you do, and we'll see. The next time we see him out there, we'll be looking to see if there's any kind of shown improvement. But it wasn't there this weekend.
Yeah. Anyone else you want to talk about before we move on?
No, I think just to give a shout out to Zach Thomas. He had told me that he was gonna, when I was in Torian in June, that he was gonna be in Miami in the elite division, and he did make it there, which it's not easy to do, and he did make the trip over. So it was great to see him for a few minutes, and kind of cool that he called his shot and made it happen.
Yeah. Before we go to the elite men, or elite women, I do want to talk about the LATAM Cup winner. Or just briefly highlight that Esteban.
Another one of my potential foes this weekend, Esteban Ospina.
Yep.
He got announced for Ethics as well. Esteban was, quite frankly, in a class of his own in this field. Yeah. And then, the guy who got second was, again, 50 points ahead of third. So this was Esteban just taking care of business, locking up the LATAM title. And he also competed in the team competition. So, he's got some competition experience in South America, and he's, this is a good stepping stone. You think about Mariana Mesa, cutting her teeth in the LATAM Cup that's been created over the last couple of years as a way to get on a big stage. And then she ends up getting into the elite field this year. So Ospina is probably a guy in South America, maybe a half dozen guys or so, that have the potential to make a step forward, and this was a good step towards that.
Yeah, I look at the LATAM Cup, especially the last couple of years, as a pretty good preview of when you look at the CrossFit Games season of potential people you might see in the top of the leaderboard when you get to the South America semifinal. So but Esteban, I mean, impressive. He was this division, along with the women's division, were one of, I think, only 3 divisions that actually got to do all the workouts.
And it's perfect actually that you brought him up right after Bedone, because they competed together also with Brian there in the elite men's teams, and they finished 6th.
Yeah,
they beat a lot of good guys. That team did. So I think Esteban is one of the athletes that stands out from the weekend for me across both competitions, the LATAM Cup, where he did as good as he could have done, and then the team competition, where I think that team did better than almost everyone would have expected them to do.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's go over to we'll go over to the LATAM Cup females, and then we'll go into elite. So females, I mean, I wasn't surprised by this. Maria Quintero, who's competed obviously on the elite women's stage, qualified for the games. I was really impressed by her, especially now they did have to change the workout for heavy after dark to a deadlift for the LATAM. I thought that was going to be the only workout that she would struggle in, but then when they switched it to a deadlift, I was really impressed by her. But
I mean, she's 4 event wins out of 5. The workout she didn't win was a workout. She's small. She's
yes,
tiny.
Very small.
And the workout she didn't win is rowing heavy wall balls and legless rope climbs. That's
finished third still. Yeah, still finished third.
Still finished third in it. So similar to Ospina, took care of business, flexed on the field, did as good as she could have done. She's another one that did the team competition. She was with a couple of Brazilian women. They finished 11th, and the women's field was very competitive in the elite teams of 3. She did the open workout in Miami Beach that night, and a couple of the I think like judging staff that were around, not judging at that time, were like, "Who is that? She's freaking flying out the gate." So she turned some heads for sure. And I think, again, I love that Wodapalooza has leaned into the Latin American community, the South American community, and these are the types of athletes that have taken advantage of that platform and starting to make a name for themselves because of it.
Yeah, and talking about that, also this weekend, Wodapalooza announced, in addition to, I guess, the Wodapalooza season in Wodapalooza, Mexico City. So a lot of these names you see in the LATAM Cup, they'll have another opportunity, just like, to kind of showcase themselves in front of the Latin community. So,
well, that's cool. I mean, I don't know exactly what Waza Mexico City is going to look like, but obviously the WFP was going to go there, and circumstances happened they didn't get to, and that could have been a big bummer for that community and the community in South and Central America in general. Looks like there's going to be a big competition coming there in some form later in this year, and so that had to have been just good news for those people to see that, okay, well, something cool is still happening in Mexico later this year.
Yeah, they're not being dismissed, and it's not with a lack of trying, but I think that's awesome for Dylan, and knowing where he wants to expand, and grow this LATAM series that he has, that they've been working on for quite a few years now, but to actually have something that, instead of being partnered with, now that they're creating in Latin America, that's great. And when you have athletes like Marie Cantero, and just involved in it, I think it's just going to help it out even more. So we'll move on to the elite women. Elite women, again, I mean, Lucy, what's up with her in those final workouts at Wodapalooza?
She said this to us. We first of all, we had both James and Lucy on the pre-show on Saturday. It was a very good show. If you haven't had a chance to watch it probably like 20, 25 minutes. It's on the WZA Sports YouTube. But one of the things she said to us there is, it's the first time I'd been in a final workout where it was a true, genuine winner take all. And there were 4 of us that could have won. And she's like, I felt the pressure. Well, halfway through the workout, it was over.
Yeah.
She was standing in the middle of the floor, broke up a handstand while looking around, and she's like, okay, I can basically coast in here. Now, look at the other names on the leaderboard. I mean, obviously Ariel Lowen is a name that's podium threats, but she's rarely threatening to win competitions anymore. Andra Moistis wins competitions in Europe that are maybe like B or A- tier competitions, Barcelona's and Turco Tumiapaiva's type stuff. But, not someone that you would think would be threatening to win this. Lucy Campbell, most people this year think that she's the favorite or amongst the favorites to win the CrossFit Games. There's a different kind of pressure that comes with that.
Yes.
And so, standing up there on the starting line with a little bit of a very different workout, a maybe unknown slate of challenging women around her, trying to defend the title, knowing when and it's done, and then following through like that, it just got to be another block in her confidence building towards the ultimate goal, which is to win the big ones. So I think even though everyone picked her to win, it's never a guarantee. She took care of business when she needed to, as she has often done. And I think this is just continuing the momentum for Lucy Campbell.
Yeah. I think most people, if you're not from Europe, most people, if they do know Andra Moistis, they would know her because of her performance in Wodapalooza 2 years ago, where she kind of broke. She had a finished 5th?
Yeah.
She finished 5th. And, this year she returned back to Wodapalooza. And for 2 events, she just looked
6th.
6, yeah. But for 2 of these events, starting off at 26.3, literally after the live announcement, they had LATAM women went, and then she went on the floor. And she crushed it. I believe me and you were still setting up, and we were hearing the MCs making the announcements over there, and she crushed it. 14-16, first overall in that event in the first heat.
Just a crazy time. I mean,
Mhm.
not now. Keep in mind, it was probably about 10 degrees cooler by this point than when Olivia, Ariel, and Danielle did the open announcement.
Yep.
But that's Olivia Kerstetter, Danielle Brandon, Ariel Lowen. Those are top 10 games athletes, athletes who can definitely show up in open and do top 10s. Like, for her to just come out and like, she was 2 minutes better than them.
Yeah.
And it held up. Lucy
Mhm.
didn't beat her. Nobody beat her.
Yep.
And Danielle Brandon did that workout on Sunday night. Didn't finish it. Still, she was closer, a lot closer, but didn't, like, and go look at the open leaderboard and look at all the people who didn't finish it. I don't know where this ended up worldwide. It's had to be up there. 10th, if better.
It was Moistus 8th.
Yeah. So that's that's impressive. And this is what she's built up, this tenacity, this grit, this competition experience, and clearly a tremendous amount of fitness that, people, like you said, people in Europe, people who watch our smaller streams will have seen her and heard about her, us talking about her. But obviously Wodapalooza draws a huge amount of attention. Hey, end of the weekend, she's on the podium with one of the game's favorites. And the last 4 years, I mean, the fittest woman in North America, the fittest mom on earth, Ariel Lowen, like, this is a very, very respectable finish. Even though the program was a little bit different, even though some of the workouts had to change, everyone had to deal with that.
Yeah.
You look at the athletes behind her, besides Ariel, you got Abigail Doman. She was knocking on the door of top 10 at the games last year. So was Lydia Fish. You got Astrid Tind, who broke out here. Emma Tall, who almost won 2 big competitions last year. Hannah Black, that was clearly on the ascendancy. Like, these aren't pushovers. These aren't walkovers. These are women, and these are women that Andra beat straight up. And I don't think a lot of people were betting on her. Even I wasn't betting on her to do this well.
Yeah. And I think the other performances, like in complex, actually, I mean, that first, because it was basically you work your way up and you work your way back down. It was just, she was impressive, because at one point it looked like Abigail Doman was going to win, and then at one point it looked like,
that's because Abigail Doman had the best strict pull-ups of any male or
She
female
did.
on the field. It was crazy.
Yeah, and then it's just like, it was kind of going back and forth, but I mean, Andra just like, she
did to the women's field in that workout what James Sprague did to the men's field, which is basically the bulk of the opportunity to pull away from the field is with the sandbag plus burpee log get over, and sandbag complex plus squatting. You had 6 of those complexes, 25 or 15 get overs, 6 of those complexes, and that's where she just dug into that tenacity, just like James did. That's where she separated from the field. Once he got on the run, it was the same thing. There was no tracking her down. She could, just like Lucy did in the final, she was able to coast in. When you can win an event and you don't even have to stress yourself in the back half or third of it, that is such a massive advantage. Not only do you get all the points, everybody else sees that and they're like, what the heck? And you're basically like chilling in for a win right in front of everyone. She was all the way across the field and everyone else was still doing burpees. They weren't even on. I mean, it was crazy.
And that was another thing that was impressive. Even when Lucy did come up there, she didn't panic. She stuck to doing singles. She'd go up, do one strict pull up, drop down, shake it up. Her coaches and friends are right in front of her, screaming at her, like, jump up. She's like, nope. It's like, I'm going to go up when because we know, like, if you fail a pull up, you could lose it altogether. It'll take a while. And Lucy was seriously trying to catch her.
And she beat her by 1:15 seconds. With Lucy pushing late and Andra just kind of coasting it.
Exactly. And I thought that was really impressive. And I think, she's definitely a name to watch this year, and whatever she does. So, I wanted to give her flowers.
The other thing is she's been competing. Like, she's done, I think she's done in 1 or 2 of the games qualifiers preceding the Open. She also did a WFP qualifier, which I think she got second in. So you'll see her at this point. I think you'll at least see her in one of the European semifinals and the WFP. 2 more opportunities for her to get on progressively bigger stages and give us a better indication of where she's at in terms of the global ranks. I mean, John and I both had her in the top 100. I had her around 40, I think. But she beat a huge slate of women that I had ahead of that.
Top 20. that were in the top 20. Yeah. And obviously there's a huge, I guess, hole in her ability in terms of, just heavyweight, just any heavy loading. And, she doesn't have that raw strength, but, we've seen that with some athletes that don't have that, but they've had very successful careers and they've gone on to win competitions. And this has to be the biggest, competition and best, most career defining competition she's had, with that glaring weakness.
Yep, completely agree. So amazing weekend for her.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's a name that's new to you, you will have some chances to see her throughout this year.
Yeah. Ariel just keep on. She just,
what did Lucy say? Lucy's like, honestly, it's a little annoying. Like, she doesn't even seem like she's prepping or peaking for these things.
Mm-hmm.
She just kind of shows up. She's having fun with her family and her kids. But when it's competition time, she's always good. She's always there. She's continuing to do it year after year, comp after comp. I mean,
I think it's because she's always forever peaking. I mean, she's always doing fitness. I mean, she, what she reminds me of? She's this year, she's like, she is the new, oh man.
I'm so curious what you're going to say, because I have a name in mind.
Okay. Tell me your name while I think.
I think of her like Scott Panchik.
Okay. All right.
Like, this guy, for as long as he's competed, he's never the best. He's always good. You can never take him for granted in the field. He's always had, in the Masters field now, he might be the best, but he's one, I think he's considered the best guy that's ever done it, that's never podiumed. Ariel has, but that's who he reminds me of. Just like a person who's constantly in the final heat. And if you're not careful, she's going to beat you and steal you for that third podium spot.
I was thinking Christy Aramo. I know like Christy Aramo is a different type of athlete than Ariel, but like Christy Aramo is like, she was just always fit. You're constantly, you knew what to expect when she showed up there, and she would surprise you here and there. So
very
that's
consistent athlete.
Yeah. And, Ariel, who last year, at Wodapalooza was probably one of her worst individual competitions she's done since she's burst back onto the scene. And, comes back, finishes third, and,
just super like she's got for Wodapalooza. She's been third or fourth at the rest of them. 17th last year. So I'm not sure what to say about that, but yeah.
Yeah. And she won't make any excuses for that. She's just like, hey, I just didn't have it, which is very rare for someone like Ariel not to have it. So, I think she had something to prove this week, and she definitely did. And I'm excited to see what she does this season, both in the games and WFP season. I think, again, she's one of these athletes that's just constantly fit, never peaking. I mean, she does everything herself. So it's crazy. She doesn't have a coach telling her like when to peak or when. She's just she does it all on feels. And that's just amazing that she's doing it that way. Abigail, I thought we talked about her pull-ups. I thought this was a good way for her to kind of like, just kind of a good.
Let's just say, like, the top four really pulled away here.
Yes, definitely.
She had a 70-point gap to Lydia Fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to mention.
Yeah, definitely. And I was able to talk to her afterwards. Ran into her at Burger King, and
you guys in Burger King.
Hey, it was good. Thanks for bringing me that melted shake. By the way, that was key on Friday. So
the melted shake.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was that hot on Saturday. By the time it was Friday. Was it Friday or Saturday? But either way,
I can't.
It might have been Saturday.
But
either way, by the time you walked it from that location to me, it was melted. I mean, it was that hot. But I was able to talk to her and Antoine, and she was
Saturday
really happy.
was one of those days. Like, we didn't talk about the weather on Saturday at all because Friday and Sunday were so horrendous. But it was like it was like a microwave. Like, it was like got super hot. Rain came in. It was just humid. It was like not, it was better than the other days, but it was still a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. I will say Saturday afternoon was beautiful when it was like cloud coverage for just seemed like over our location. A nice wind came through, but it was still sunny.
The best was the Thursday morning when I did the gauntlet. That was good. And Saturday evening.
Yeah. Lydia Fish.
Wait, no, I just want to say about Abigail.
Go ahead.
impressive to me across the board, minus the beach run. And I think that we've talked enough about it over the years that like you want to be elite in this sport, which I would not say she's in the elite category yet. She's got to get the running under control.
Yeah.
If she can elevate her running, look at the strength. Like this is one of those athletes that cruised into a second place on the strength. The upper body pulling is fantastic. The squatting is good enough. The fitness is there. You got to get the running up. If you want to get into the top 10 conversation globally, right now, I think that depending on the workouts, if everyone in the women's field around the world was competing, she's going to be in the teens, maybe in the 20s, depending on execution, a few different variables and whatever. I think that she has a requisite skill set and strength that she could get there. Yeah. But the running cannot be the thing that's lacking. It's very like Gymreapers is really the only guy that comes to mind that has had multiple top 10 finishes and is not good enough at running. It's such a rare thing. You got to have the running if you want to push in the top 10. So that was, while I was impressed overall, that's the one kind of takeaway I would have for Abigail here.
Yeah. And that's very fixable. I mean, we'll talk about a few of these athletes here who've developed into fairly decent runners. And, Abigail, I mean, that's very fixable. So I think, hoping, and it's not like she does. I mean, I look at her and she looks like a runner, kind of tall, just, I just, yeah.
I mean, running is one of those things like a lot of people can be good at running, You don't have to be the tallest. You don't have to be the shortest. Like there's a lot of people that can be good at running, but you have to put in the work and intentional work. Yeah. And so I'm not sure if it was the sand. I don't know if it was like maybe it was something else, but I'll be looking when she competes next, when there's a running workout that comes out. Is it again her worst finish, or was this maybe an outlier, or have they made an improvement there? But overall, I see Abby still moving up over in general with her fitness.
Yeah. Lydia Fish, I think she was just if you watch Hiller's video that he did he talked to Lydia and he's like what her goals were. He's like top 10, maybe better. And she finishes 5th. I was really impressed again, complex actually. She was one of the few people like on the run and during on the back half of that workout that was actually passing people up. In terms of her squatting and going over the
and the person she passed up was Lucy Campbell. Mm-hmm. That's a nice person to pick off in a gritty, grindy workout. But the worst part about Lucy's competition was her
grit.
If you even want to call those strict pull-ups. Yeah. But Lydia stayed in it, had a great finish there, and yes, was climbing towards the end of it. I mean, Lydia is right now one of the women in the field around the world that I would say like her competition performances they're almost don't make sense. Like it's a little better than you think it should be every time. Mm-hmm. I think that her and Perrin have really locked into a great relationship, coach to athlete. She's obviously got great support with the family. She's having fun, but she competes hard. She's a mental warrior. So Lydia is I think that as we continue to see her, we'll also continue to see people inspired by her.
Yeah. And I'm going to make this comparison only because I know this person very well. Is like I get a lot of Sahar Kaya vibes from her.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Gritty, kind of one of the smaller athletes in the field, very good squatter, very good at burpees, and just doesn't give up. Not the strongest athlete. I mean, if we removed her name and put Sahar Kaya's name there and saw the results, you'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, I'm not sure if she's as good as a handstand push-up.
I'd have to go back and watch what happened to her on No Way Down. Like the 16th there doesn't seem like it should have happened like that. I wonder if she had some no rep issues or
the wall maybe.
Yeah, something. I'm not sure. Maybe because
that would probably
like that should have been closer to a 10th.
Yeah, and I know that'd be a type of workout with it might have been a row. Like someone like Kaya is really good at rowing and really good at wall balls. So that might be the one non-comparison too. Another athlete that does very well, that's historically done well. Well, I guess historically like last year, has done well at Wodapalooza. Astrid Tind.
Yeah, both individually and team. She was 12th
Yep.
and 3rd last year. She was 6th and 4th this year.
Yep.
The team is not as surprising because in general, Denmark puts out good teams and they have for a long time. And that's where she's put a lot of her focus. Her focus has shifted. It's on the individual this year. She's in the WFP field after qualifying. She obviously improved on her finishes here. So Astrid Tind is definitely climbing the ranks in individual. Again, at 5'11", I'm not sure what the peak potential is for her, but she is, first of all, an incredibly kind human being and nice to talk to.
From Denmark,
Yeah.
Have you met someone from Denmark that wasn't nice?
No, they're great, of course, but she's impressive and she's got sneaky strength. As you see there, 6th place on the heavy after dark. No surprise to see a top 2 or 3 in the complex, actually. Rowing wall balls, rope climb, top 10. And the open workout, that's not her workout. Tons of burpees at 5'11" is always going to be tough. She actually gave it a second go with her team on Sunday night. She did not improve her score. And she told me that in the history of doing the open, she's only ever improved her score once in a redo. So she's this type of athlete I would call like Vellner-esque. I'm this type of athlete too, and I think this is a really good skill set to have, especially if you're a competitor, is that when she sees a workout and she has a limited amount of time to execute on it, she's better than most of her competitors. That's an arena she thrives in. Now, there's not a lot of fields where that exists anymore and where you can capitalize on it unless you're at the game and get a few workouts like that. But I think that's a good testament to athletic potential, preparation, and really, really being intuitive with your own strengths and weaknesses. So this is something we were talking about with John too. Like, I have not seen an athlete in the women's side that tall and that good. And he was throwing out like Annie Thorzutter and Anna Tobias, which CrossFit was double checking is that they are not that tall. And he's 4 inches shorter than her. So this is very impressive what she's doing and pushing new limits for tall females in the sport.
Yeah. Annie gives the appearance of being taller because she's so lean. So she tied her European neighbor, Emma Tall. They both finished at 222 points. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to Emma or David, her partner and coach, but coming off a 4th place finish last year, was she? I think the main thing with Emma is like, is she healthy? How was she feeling this year heading into Wodapalooza and after?
I'm not sure. I actually didn't really. I saw them once at breakfast, just briefly. They were walking by. I said hi to them. But Wodapalooza is one of those places where, there were people there that I know well that I didn't even know were there because there's just so much going on. So I didn't get too much of a chance to talk to him. Not what I was expecting from her. I thought she'd be on the podium this year, maybe even challenging Lucy for the win. But this is a very sort of what we were looking at with Max and Luca, just like nothing stood out. There weren't any. 6 was the best she did, I think, on a workout. And that's never going to put you on a podium.
Yeah. Hannah Black, just obviously the lifting event, I think we're kind of penciling like her and Danny kind of as the top 1-2 on that. Danny finishing 4th, Hannah finishing 1st. But, not, some good finishes here. She had a 9th, another top 10 at the Press and Impress, but kind of, nothing outside of the lift that just like stood out when it came to Hannah.
No, we were trying to get her on the one of the shows for Sunday that obviously never ended up happening. And I was looking forward to checking in with her and seeing her own assessment of this. Because of expecting to do that, I didn't actually talk to her about it. So I'm not really sure, but I think that maybe there's people, I might be one of these people that's like, thinking that her and Abby Domit are somewhat similar in terms of where they're at in the women's field and where they're pushing up to. But this weekend, that wasn't the case. She was not, as we said, not near Abby here. Maybe the workouts, it's only a small number of them. But I think we'll see better competitions from her as the year goes on.
Yeah. I mean, the glaring thing was the 26.3 finishing 18th in the field. That was kind of glaring, but it's a lot that's a lot of burpees. The weight's not too much of a problem, but the capacity might be. Here's someone I didn't know anything about, and maybe you can help me out. Jess Green. I don't know. I really didn't know anything about her, but every time I looked up, she was like I was hearing her name being called.
I talked to her for a little bit on Sunday night at the open announcement. She was there because she was competing with I think it was the Aussie Grit team, Emily Clements and Brody Preston, and she did the workout earlier in the day, so she was just kind of hanging out. And I tried to check in with her and see what she was up to. She's pretty much only done teams in the past in Oceania, so the reason we haven't really seen her because teams haven't made the games. I think she was 4th at the best team finish in Oceania a couple years ago, and she said she wants to give it a run as individual, put herself in a few more competitions. I thought that I would say she was one of the surprises. I mean, yes, it's only middle of the field here, but Aline Weerts, Danny Spiegel, Ellie Turner, Matilda Garnes, Janie Chevery, Mariana Mesa are all athletes that I think I might have picked her last, honestly, of this field. So this is add her to the list. If you followed along the coverage I did in Torian last year, there's this huge group of women, like 20 of them, that are kind of the next, probably one or two of them breaks out and becomes the next thing. And who knows? I don't know if that's Jess Green or not, but I'm definitely paying attention to her in a way that I wasn't. I went and looked up her stuff afterwards. She was 33rd overall in the Open this year also. She's 27 years old. She's right in the mix of what we would consider to be sort of the sweet spot or the prime for an athlete's career. So with the experience on the semifinal stage in Torian in the team division, getting into the individual field in Wodapalooza, having a top 10 finish here, beating some household names, that's going to help the mindset. So yeah, who knows what we'll see next from Jess, but this was, in my opinion, one of the standouts for the weekend.
And in 10th, kind of wrapping out the top 10 is Aline Weerts. Also no stranger to Wodapalooza. Typically you see her in the team. I mean, last year the Swiss had their own team. It was her, Mirjam, and who else was it? I forgot who else was on. Oh yeah, Nicole Her. So so kind of wrapping out the top 10. I don't know.
Well, I thought we would get a little better out of her this competition. Not that 10th is horrible at all, but she was doing very, very well in the Open. I would have thought she might have been even as top 3 in this Open workout against this field. She was 8th, and that's big points. Like the difference between 3rd place and 8th place on this leaderboard was 80 points all the way down to 44. And if you look at her overall rank and you give her 36 extra points from 188, she jumps all the way up into that really, really that battle with Astrid and Emma. And now she's pushing towards the top 5, only a couple points behind Lydia Fish. But it's bigger than that. It's the first workout of the weekend, get some momentum going. You never know. So I think that where Aline kind of lost relative to what I expected from her was by not being as good at the final Open workout as I thought. Obviously, we didn't know the workout, but even looking at it, I thought that she would have done better than that. And so she's similar to Andra Moistis in that, she's been competing around Europe, getting some competition experience there, pretty good on qualifiers. But I think that at this point, maybe just a step behind Andra in terms of being able to execute at the highest level. But tons of potential.
Yeah. Before we go after her, I mean, a rough Thursday for Danny Spiegel, and then kind of closes it out Saturday. You would figure, she traditionally does very well at Wodapalooza. Do you think this? I guess it all depends on the workout. But if there's 6 workouts versus 5 workouts, we might have seen Danny a little bit higher there. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it just ended up being somewhat redundant workouts. And of course, there were some spreads and some athletes that did well on some of them compared to others, kind of maybe because of the strict pull-up thing. When dynamic gymnastics are replaced by strict gymnastics in the upper body pulling domain, Danny doesn't do as well. So you have the legless rope climb and the strict pull up, and she doesn't have good performances on either. You already talked about the burpee being a dominating thing in terms of keeping her from crushing the first workout, similar to Hannah Black. So you're looking at three movements and 3 consecutive things with the burpee, the strict pull up, and the strict and the legless rope climb that are all towards the bottom of Danny Spiegel's specialties. You didn't get, we had obviously the good finishes at the end, but it was offset by just 3 things in 3 different workouts that she doesn't necessarily excel at. You can weather the storm of one of those. She could have been in the top 10 with 2 of those, but with 3 of those, it's not happening. The field was too good.
Yeah. And I talked to her back in my athlete area. She's like, man, I forgot but the concept is like, I should be retired by now. He's like, and I'm like, but the thing is, you keep on showing up. She goes, I know, right? I think she just enjoys being with the girls. She enjoys the competition.
Dude, I was living in Naples, Florida in 2017. One of the girls that I was coaching with here was friends with Danny Spiegel, kind of through the grid community that she had known. And she was like, Danny Spiegel was her idol. We traveled up to West Palm Beach together to watch her compete. I remember watching her in the convention center there. That was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And she hadn't broken out yet.
Nope.
It was like about a year off from that. And she's pretty much been a mainstay in terms of the top 30 globally for the last 7 or 8 years. And sometimes it's been a little higher than others. She's had tons of opportunities with the American Gladiators, the Rock thing. Like she's had, she's game up. Here we go.
Yeah. And that has to be a highlight for her because this was announced. I mean, we knew that she was doing it, but now it's going to be on Prime TV April 17th. I mean, this is really good for the community in terms of forward facing, and the thing is, there's a lot of you're going to be surprised. She is one of the gladiators, but you're going to see a lot of familiar names during this competition, as competitors, maybe not as, fighting for those spots. So, I think that is a highlight for her, something to look back at.
Yeah, and it's amazing with all the opportunities she's had with sponsors, with women's movement things, with like photo shoots, TV opportunities. She's competed everywhere, and she's competed well everywhere. I think that the totality of what she's achieved over the last 8 years. Now, granted, there's no major podiums. There's not even that many top 10s, but the consistency of being able to show up year after year, competition after competition, and balance all the other opportunities that have come with it. It's pretty impressive, 8-year run for Danny Spiegel.
In 12th was someone that I think everybody was probably everyone wanted to see if she'd actually finish the weekend and how she felt. Ellie Turner. Yeah, I mean, I
think it's a huge win for Ellie.
Yes, 100%. And I think she would agree with you too.
It's great to see her have a standout performance in No Easy Way Down. And again,
wall balls and rowing
and her rowing are up there with the best in the world, obviously.
Exactly.
The confidence on the competition floor, obviously, after 3 years is something that has to be a question mark. But like you said, finishing the competition, as far as I know, she didn't hurt herself doing that. She just did what she could on the lifts, got out there on the floor, got to experience that again. I think this is, Ellie can kind of do what she wants to do, but I think she wants to be back out there competing. And I think that this was a good check mark for her to go there, finish the competition, do it safely, do it well. It's still, she's still beating some decent athletes, finishing 12th here. So, like you said, everyone loves Ellie. I'm excited that she was out there, finished the weekend, and I hope I don't know where it'll be this year, but I hope we see her again.
Yeah, I mean, you add
even if it's just Wodapalooza SoCal, and she goes there and she didn't finish that competition last year.
No, she didn't. But that was kind of like the litmus test. But you add that with her performance in the Open. Let me see how she did in the Open. I think she did really well, actually.
I can't even keep track of how you get into all the semifinals. Like, is there a semifinal that she can compete at if she wants to?
Yeah, Australia.
Okay.
Well,
So
all the semifinals this year are open if you did the qualifier, but I believe her plan is to do the Torian.
yeah, but she's the type of athlete, like doing the qualifiers makes no sense for her.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
doesn't need to do extra competitions. But
I could definitely see her. I mean,
she does well enough in quarterfinals that she just gets invited to some of these.
Yeah, I think Legends and NorCal are invites.
So, I mean, Legends is one where I think Justin's already planning to be there.
Yeah.
So if she does, let's see if she does the quarterfinals. Let's keep an eye on Ellie Turner.
From the talk of it, I mean, she finished 38th in Open, highlighted by an 8th place in 26.1, which obviously high volume of wall balls. 42nd in 26.2, and then 26.3. You know, 176 in the world, not bad. You know, she just did it once. Again, it's the Open, but still finished 38th. I mean, the plan is for all the boys interrupted are coming to Boise. So I don't see I don't see any way she doesn't jump in. You know.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, yeah. So great. So let's see what she does in quarters, and maybe we'll see her at a semifinal.
Yeah, I think we will. Anyone else you want to talk to? I know we didn't. I mean, you know, we could sit here and talk about everyone. I mean, we actually could talk about each one of these women individually. You know, especially here at the bottom, why they're at the bottom of this or why they aren't. But you know,
well, the only woman that's remaining on this list that we kind of thought would be at the top that finished the competition.
Yes, that finished
is Matilda, and this basically just came down to one missed lift. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the perfect competition for her anyway, but if she hits that lift, she's finishing either 6th or 7th for the weekend, which is still, I thought she'd be in podium contention, so it's still not quite there. She said just the overall slate of workouts wasn't amazing for her, but I think that I'm not concerned about this workout, for this competition for Matilda Garnes in terms of precluding her from having like competitive and relevant results at other competitions. I think the next place we'll see her is WFP London, and I think that there's a high likelihood that she has, in a field of 50, a comparable finish to what she had in a field of 20 here.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, I think if we're going to talk about the team events, I think since there really wasn't, you know,
there weren't any team events.
Exactly.
There are individual events, and I'm just going to throw out a couple of things. Well, basically what I mean by that is there were 6 events for the teams. One of them was the open workout. You knew that it was going to be an open workout that they had to do individually. And of the other 5 workouts, 3 of them were scored. The run was scored individually. The relay was an individual effort added together, which is basically scored individually. And then you had the biking, double under, snatch, overhead squat workout where you could flex on your specialists in those different disciplines, especially on the barbell cycling. I mean, I don't think Annika got on the bike, and I think she just annihilated the barbell. And why wouldn't you do that if that's your team and she's on your team and she's the best in the world at that? Yeah. So it was unfortunate because you had a ton of team athletes in the individual field. The interesting thing is some of them still did very well, like the Norwegian Krieger boys. The top 3 on the men's field, these were the guys that you would expect anyway. Yeah. The same, basically the same guys that are always up there.
Yeah.
Against a pretty wide open field behind that, when you take out the 2 team workouts for Andreas, Benjamin, and Henrik to finish 4th is very good. I also want to just give a shout out to the EMF boys, which is, excuse my French is what it stands for, by the way, which is amazing. And in particular, there's a 20-year-old kid on their team, Valentin Cotter, who's about 6'1", that has qualified for the Madrid individual semifinal. So assuming that quarterfinals go well enough, I don't understand the whole season there, but he's supposed to be in Madrid competing. So we'll get to see him again. I had not heard of these guys. I did talk to a friend of mine in France, but this is a great finish. I mean, I wonder what would have happened with the worm and with the synchro gymnastics because they're on the bigger side, but there's a lot of good athletes down the board that they finished ahead of.
Yeah.
I will just mention Logan Brown, Mason Griffin, and Grant Griffin didn't do Logan did the workout 26.3 and they left. So Grant and Mason didn't get to log scores at CrossFit Miami Beach that night. They all had to drive back to Georgia and be home for work on Monday morning. But if you look at their open scores and factor them in, they would have been threatening for 5th or 6th in this field. And, Mason obviously is a guy that John Young is super high on. I also think he's got some potential this year. So they would have been more in the 5-6 range if they'd have been able to finish that again before the team workouts factored in.
Yeah. Hey, but Charlie's Angels did not finish last. So shout out to Keegan and his boys.
I think that's pretty much right where I picked.
I think he did say 18th, but he was when we had breakfast with him that morning. He's like, "Do you think we'll finish last?" And he did. So
the one other thing I want to say is about Dallin Pepper. It's a team competition, but we said it was a lot of individual efforts, and in particular on 26.3. I mean, that environment was crazy, but he looked awesome to me. And I know it wasn't like world-class finish, and it wasn't, he didn't even finish the workout. He was close. But Saxon Panchik was right in front of him. That's a Saxon Panchik workout, barbell cycling and burpees. And he needed to beat Jason and Justin to not have to get egged. And it was a long day and all this stuff. And these are the things that when you spend a lot of time at live competitions, you see things, at least I do, differently. And it was his eyes. It was the composure. It was the calm that workout sucks. I know that Bill and Chase advertised like hardest open workout ever. I mean, as soon as it was announced, I said, this might be a top 5 hardest workout open ever. And I didn't even have much time to think about it. Dallin knew exactly what he was doing. And I think they made the joke that he was warming up for 8 hours before doing his workout. The last with the heaviest barbell, it was immaculate. He paced it perfectly. He had his plan. He finished strong. Saxon went out fast. He tracked him down. He beat Jason. And if Dallin is going to win the CrossFit Games this year, he needs to be able to tap into that preparation, execution, and composure under pressure, combined with the ability to hurt when it sucks to hurt. If he can do that workout after workout at the CrossFit Games, he's got a chance.
Yeah.
And I was really, I'm going to say like that was the first glimpse of him in a live competition this year. And it was a glimpse that I was grateful to see in terms of what his potential is for 2026.
Yeah. I hadn't seen that Dallin, that look that you were talking about since Saturday Mesa.
Yeah, he was on fire Saturday, Sunday in Mesa. And that's the type of thing that, he can't have the Friday Mesa though.
Yep. 100%. And I think, and I was going back and forth, but the contrast between his body language and the look on his eyes versus Jason's complete difference.
I'll say this about Jason was hurting, and he was kind of pinned in that corner of that gym that was probably the hottest. He's a profuse sweater anyway. And we talked about like the volume of burpees for the big athletes on the women's side. I actually was not that discouraged by Jason.
Oh, I wasn't discouraged. I'm just saying there were just two different stories. Like, I'm not saying that a bad thing. I mean, shoot, I think 99% of us would look like Jason at the end of that workout. But that tells you the difference between the two. Like Dallin was just like, he was, you saw a different fire in him. And I'm not saying that Jason didn't have it. I'm just saying.
I think you can spin what Jason did as positive also. Like it looks like he was hurting, but he still found a way to dig deep and deeper and deeper, and fight harder and harder. I mean, he ended up not being too many reps behind Dallin and Saxon at the end of that.
Yeah, he definitely dug, and he was laboring more than he appeared to be more labored than the other two. But again, like I said, my hat's off to him. I was just making more of the point is like, it's like there was just the it just looked different. But but let's talk about that. I mean, let's talk about before we end this here. We'll quickly, I think, kind of the men was covered there, but we'll talk about the women. The girls, the team of Gabby, Paige Rogers, and Alexis Raptis. A lot of question marks going in that team because I think the main thing is just like what shape were they in terms of whether it be from, Paige Rogers just having a baby. Obviously we've seen that she's getting there. What from her actions, from her performances at Mesa to Crash. And then we had 2 question marks in Alexis Raptis and Gabby Magawa, who we haven't seen much of because of due to injuries or due to, just trying to get back. But they looked impressive.
I've been throwing it out there a little bit, talking to people about it, that the top of the race at the games for the women this year is as compelling as it's been in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
If these 3 women are as good as they were right now and have 6 months to build on that, 4 months to build on that, and are, they got to get there. The semifinals field is so freaking crazy this year, but I've just put all 3 of these women up from where I had them projected to start the season into a more competitive tier. And suddenly it's getting extremely dense and tight and no space in the top 5 and top 10 for the women that are likely to be at the CrossFit Games this year. So yeah, I would say that this, for someone who's just excited about a lot of women with a lot of different storylines and a lot of potential, this increases the storytelling opportunity throughout the semifinal season and especially leading into the CrossFit Games. And all 3 of these names are right now in a place where if you tell me that you know what their ceiling is for this season, I don't believe you.
Oh, 100%.
There's a lot of unknown, but a lot of questions were asked over those 2 days of competition.
Yeah. And we both had conversations with Gabby after that. And I think what she told me is like the biggest test wasn't the biggest test she thought was this workout. And the strain that I would have on her calf, her Achilles, not the other workouts. She has been running. She has been doing box jumps. It was just this amount of volume of the transfer of energy from her legs to her arms, just that the pressing, the getting up on the burpees. And she was very happy. And she didn't know she was going to finish it. And she finished with 2 seconds to spare.
Yeah. And that women's heat was insane. Trista Smith, yes. Gabby, Paige Rogers, Danielle was 2 reps off. Emily Rolfe was 1 rep off. That was, to me, the best heat of the night over there. And obviously the videos have been going viral and making the rounds.
Yeah.
There's a few other women that I want to give a shout out to in the team division. One of them is Liz Wishart.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy that they couldn't find a teammate. They brought Liz in late and she looked great, and this was very tight. They ended up fending off Astrid Tind, Mia Furu, and another athlete I want to give a shout out to, Rebecca Wittesen. It was 4 points between 3rd and 4th at the end of the weekend. But Liz Wishart and Rebecca Wittesen are 2 athletes that you can just lose them in the field. They both rose to the occasion for their team here. I totally forgot about Rebecca coming back into the field for our top 100 this year. Mm-hmm. She definitely deserves to be in the top 100 if she's back competing. So shout out to both Liz and Rebecca for good starts to their season. And then I also just want to give a little credit to Lindsay Lane. Like she has gotten stronger, and it's easy, especially in the team competition, to not notice those types of things. But she looked really good managing some of the barbells and some of the 70-pound dumbbell snatches compared to things I've seen in the past. And you were talking about Ellie Turner, just like maybe she'll jump in with Boys Interrupted. Well, when they did the quarterfinals in CrossFit Crash, she jumped in with Fee. She was like way out of her league compared to the rest of the athletes there. Yep. But she wasn't discouraged by that. It feels to me that's a couple years ago. She was motivated by that I want to be on that stage and not look like I don't belong there. And I didn't. And I felt like watching this. I mean, this team in general, Kenzie Campbell's the same way. Like she shouldn't be as strong as she is, but she was. So I thought that Mayhem Platinum exceeded expectations this weekend, and I was encouraged by just the growth that both Lindsay and Kenzie have showed on this team.
Yeah. Well, let's end it talking about 26.3. I want to say one, Dylan, thanks for letting me be a part of that, letting us be a part of that. That has to go down top 3 moments I've ever witnessed in person in this community, in CrossFit, in the space. And it was just something special, man. It really was. And that's where I'm just finally regaining some of my voice from that. But I mean, it was, I try to make the comparisons, to compare it. It's like, it just reminded me of just underground CrossFit. Like there's, it reminded me of like, the rap battle and the 8 Mile. It was dirty, it was sweaty, it was grungy. People were screaming and yelling. The hype was real. It's like I wanted to do 26.3 after that, but of course, it was just crazy. And I just wanted to, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I mean, where does that rank? I mean, we talked to a lot of people. I talked to a lot of athletes there, and they're just like, what an experience. I talked to Cooper, and Cooper's been to a lot of live events, open announcements. And he's like, this is up there. This is unreal.
It's hard to find the comparison.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
I mean, and it's one of those things where it was a really frustrating day, from the competition side, from the spectator side, from the athlete side, from the coaches side, from the media side. Nothing seemed to be going well. And it's so easy to be discouraged. And with a different leadership team, different community support, it could have been a total letdown of the day and the week. And I know that we couldn't have all the fans in there. I mean, it was hot enough as it was. It was a tight space as it was. But, Wodapalooza basically took the restrictions off the media. They're like, well, live stream it. Who cares? Go on IG Live. Go on YouTube Live. Whatever. And people watched, and people loved it. And even I just was watching people cheer for Paige on those last reps, and I was like, I'm just gonna record it and see what happens. And the comments on there are nostalgic, and this is what it's about. This is community. This is finding a way. This is digging deep. This is never getting up. This is doing hard things. It just echoed to me, the reason that throughout all of the ups and downs over the last couple of years and decade plus, that I've stuck with it, that I've continued to invest more into it, and that you've done the same. And honestly, 95% or more of the people that were in that room have stories similar to yours or mine, that have had every reason to give up on themselves, on the thing, on the games, on the season, on whatever, but they keep showing up. And that's what separates CrossFit and CrossFitters and this community from a lot of communities around the world, is that when life throws us challenges, we find a way to get through them anyway. And more often than not, it's doing it together. And that's what happened that night.
It really was. Special time. It's unfortunate that, that was just unreal. And it reminded me of, that's what Friday night lights used to be like, I think, in some of the gyms that I've been to. And I think, we captured it there at a higher level. And that it showed that, every person I talked to at the gym, in terms, they just talk about, man, this is that community aspect that's missing. And the thing is, it really wasn't, it was the community, but it wasn't in a certain way. I mean, the people there were, they're teammates, they're fans, they're, they're not fans, but managers. They're only a certain amount of people, coaches, but I guess that is a part of the community. But if you can capture that and incorporate the fans in that some way or somehow, man, that's you're talking about the resurgence of this thing,
Yeah, it could be a landmark event when we look back 5-10 years from now. You never know. What I do know, and I said it that night, is it's an event that everyone who is privileged enough to be there will never forget, and will be telling stories about down the road.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was a little bit longer show, but again, Brian, you said you wanted to kind of recognize some of the athletes that hadn't been talked about. We didn't go too much into the team, but the team, there wasn't that much action, that we talked about this, I think, again, like I stressed, that we both stressed at the beginning, this is a very huge undertaking for Dylan and his team to be a part of. And I think they did the best that they could with what they had. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of disappointments, but you have to look back and look at the successes of it overall. And I think that's what we did in this show, was talk about the successes instead of leaning on the uncontrollable factors. That is the weather. That is, people being stuck in Miami Beach, which there's worse places you could be stuck at, by the way. I'm just saying, I did not get home Monday night and I planned on being in my own bed at midnight, on Monday. But, again, be Old Day Tuesday. I got to spend St. Patty's Day with, obviously one of my good friends, Con. Went out to dinner with Scotty. you know, it was a nice chill day. Went on a run on the beach. It was actually really good that my charger got wet and, you know, didn't work anymore. I kind of got disconnected and got to enjoy Miami a little bit more. But there's other people. If you get a chance, shout out to Tyler Cook. If you get a chance, go to Tyler Cook's Instagram and read his Airbnb review. Classic, great job, Tyler. Shout out to Quinn Robinson. Quinn made the best of it as well. Rented a freaking minivan, drove down to the Florida Keys and hung out the Florida Keys. You know, just like I think that was a cool thing. Athletes made the best of the situation. You know, I mean, James Sprague got to see the freaking World Baseball Classic. You know, and so that's a cool thing on it. It's like if you're going to be stuck anywhere, there's no, you know, why Miami's not a bad place. Everyone found something to do. So, yeah, it was just pretty cool overall. But all right, well, again, I want to reiterate, if you feel compelled to, if you look at the link in the description, or if you go to Brooke Wells's stories, there is a GoFundMe set up for Lisa Wells, her and Sydney's mom. You know, if you know, even if dropping a message, I think they'll appreciate sending them a DM, sending them a message on their story or on their post, just wishing her, Lisa, and their family the best. I think that would pay to be great. And I think, you know, I think that's an example of what we live by is, you know, just being friendly, not just every day, but any chance we get. And with that being said, be friendly, our friends.